We're on lesson 5 of chapter 8, which looks at congruent figures. First, we're going to identify congruent figures in the real world. Then we're going to identify congruent triangles. Then we're going to use congruents to find unknown measures. First, let's learn what congruent figures are. Shapes are congruent if they have the same side lengths, meaning they're the same size, and also the same angles. So same size and same shape if you want to learn it that way. Congruent shapes don't need to be in the same position as each other, and they don't need to have the same color. For example, if we look over here. So these triangles here, they are all congruent. They have the same side lengths because this is a square here. And they also have the same angles as each other. You'll notice that they are not in the same position. They've done a complete rotation, and they are all different colors. Same thing with these triangles here, all around the outside. They're the same size as each other, and while these are the same colors as each other, they're not all the same color, nor are they in the same position. If you look at these triangles then, they're smaller, but these ones are all the same shape as each other, so that would make them congruent. These squares also share that same characteristic. They're the same size, the same shape, different colors, but that doesn't matter, and different positions, but that doesn't matter either. So let's see if we can put this knowledge to use. It tells us to identify any congruent figures in these real-world situations. So first we have this checkerboard here. So we're looking for anything that could be congruent. Well, I see that the checkerboard is made entirely of squares. And these squares line up perfectly, which tells me that they are the same size and the same shape. So if this, for example, is the same as that. It's also the same as these brown squares too. Remember, color doesn't matter. So even though these brown and tan ones are of different colors, they're the same. So we could say checker squares. Then also these checkers would be congruent as well. See, these white checkers all the same size and shape, and these red ones have the same size and shape as well. And remember, color doesn't matter. Neither does a star on top of a checker either. This is going to be the same size and the same shape. Just because that star is printed on there doesn't make it any different. So we'll say the checkers themselves. Now we have this dartboard, and I notice everything is a circle. So the same shape applies to all of these, but unfortunately none of these circles are the same size. One of them is each smaller than the other. And since it can't be any of the circles, I really don't see any other shapes it could be. So actually this one has no congruent figures. So we'll say none. Now we're going to identify congruent triangles using this side-side-side rule. The side-side-side rule says that if all sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles will also be congruent. Keep in mind that this is for triangles only. Don't apply this to anything else. You're going to need sides and angles for everything else. But for triangles, you only need the sides. So for example, in this triangle, the shortest side is 3, the second one is 4, the third side is 5, and that's also true over here. I see the smallest one is 3, the next one is 4, and this largest one is 5. You'll notice that this triangle has been flipped from left to right here, so it's actually facing the opposite way. But that doesn't make it any less congruent. It's still the same size and the same shape, just facing a different way. So we're going to say yes because it follows that side-side-side rule. All sides match up. Now let's look at these two triangles. We have 5 for its smallest, followed by 7 and then 8. Over here we have 5, 8, and 8. So I notice that the one in the middle don't match up. So that means these are not congruent, which I'm going to say no. Now we're going to be given two congruent figures, and we have to find unknown measures in each set of them. So the two unknown measures I have here are this A, and then this side length B. A is an angle, B is the length of a side. Let's look at A first. So I already know that these are congruent because it tells me that they are congruent. So knowing that, I know that the angles and the sides have to match up. So if you notice, I see 121 here, that matches up over here. I see 130, that matches up over here. So clearly these congruent figures are not in the same position. Well, if that's the case, how can I find A? Well, you need to look where A is between. A is between the 121 and the 122. Which angle measures between the 121 and 122 over here? Well, I see 121 here. I see 122 here. That means these angles match up. A must be 110 degrees. So A equals 110 degrees. We can do the same method for B over here. I see that B is between 23 millimeters and 30 millimeters. What here is between 23 and 30? I see 23. I see 30. So therefore this 28 millimeters matches up with the B. So B equals 28 millimeters.